All right, welcome into the 29th edition of everyone's favorite horse racing podcast. This is BloodHorse Monday. I'm Louie Rabaut, hanging out with a very west of me, Sean Collins. He's out there at Emerald Downs. Post Longacres Mile, Sean, only you, my friend, would wake up at Saratoga and think, you know what I need to do today? I need to go to the Longacres Mile. Looking at the time. Good morning. How are you, Sean?
Yes. Oh, it's a great morning so far. And yes, I probably am the only one crazy enough to be at the Alabama, thinking about how the fact that I have to catch a flight at 6 in the morning to fly across the country to come to the Longacres Mile. But what a great weekend it was here, both at Saratoga for the Alabama and out here at Emerald Downs for the Longacres Mile. Two really great days of racing at both places, great performances, especially in the big races. And it was a lot of fun. This checked off track number 47 for me coming out here, my 43rd Thoroughbred track. So I was happy to be out here. It was a whole lot of fun.
What's more annoying? People like you that talk about how many tracks they've been to, or people like you that put PA bread in their bio on Twitter? Which one's more annoying? The number of tracks or where you were born?
I don't know. It's tough because both my Twitter accounts has one or the other. So probably the where you were born one, I'd say. I don't know. I think when you get to I mean, speaking personally, of course, I think when you get to the amount of tracks I've been to, I think that's a fun thing to talk about. But yeah.
We'll hear from Phil Ziegler. He's the president of Emerald Downs. He'll close the show for us. Today, of course, we'll hear from our guy, Frank Angst, our editor over at BloodHorse, about what's coming up in the magazine. We will have a first, and by the way, heavy lifting from Sean, not just traveling, doing the interviews as well. This one happened to be during my radio show in the morning, but we will have Brian Klatsky on from BBN Racing as well. Tons to get into with them, of course, ahead of the Travers, and of course, some other good results for them most recently as well. But speaking of results, Sean, you were there for the Alabama. Nitrogen was a logical play, but so was Good Cheer and so was Lacara. There were many logical plays for kind of a short field, but the reaction of the crowd, the reaction of the group up there, were people rooting for Nitrogen at this point? Because I'm starting to wonder, we do this in the summertime, we start to get toward Breeders' Cup season, what have you. Who's that 3-year-old filly of the year? Who's that, whatever it might be. We've done our midseason Eclipse Awards on this show, for example. Is she starting to get a little popularity as that 3-year-old filly of the year?
Oh yeah, definitely. It definitely seemed like it being there on Saturday. There was a great reception to her winning. There was a lot of talk about her in the days leading up to it too, just about that move over to the turf. She looks or move over to the dirt from the turf. She looks great on the dirt. She ran fantastic. I know some people were commenting on the fact that she was drifting around a little bit in the stretch, or some of the stuff going into the first turn where she was wide. It's like I think the stretch was more just of she didn't have anybody in front of her, which I don't think she's used to necessarily that early.
Or she was going 10 furlongs and she'll never do that again.
Yeah, that
You're
also could
supposed to
play a
get
role.
tired in that last furlong. Call it that. Come on. Yes, that part. Go, keep going, Sean. I'm sorry.
But yeah, so I agree with you. So, I think it was a top-notch performance from her. I think she could turn into one of these superstars. I don't know, it sounds like they're going to point towards the distaff, but next year, if you look at where she could maybe bounce back and forth between, the dirt and the turf, we know Mark Casse likes going to somewhere like Royal Ascot with Tepin. Few years ago. Imagine if she, wins the Breeders' Cup Distaff on the dirt and then goes out and runs at Royal Ascot next year. So she's going to turn into one of these superstars in the sport, probably. The way she ran, she deserves to be. But I think at least at this point, she's definitely put herself in the number one spot for the champion 3-year-old filly. And I know she's only got the one Grade 1, but when you look at her wins on the turf, earlier in the year, they're not Grade 1s, but the Appalachian and the Edgewood are the two races that all the top turf 3-year-old fillies are pointing to. So even though they're not Grade 1s, it's the best of the 3-year-old filly turf division in the springtime. So I think she definitely is in that number one spot right now. We'll see what Scottish Lassie can do in the Cotillion. We'll see what Good Cheer can bounce back and do, what Lucara can bounce back and do. But I think right now Nitrogen's in the driving spot for that.
Good Cheer. We've now seen her back-to-back races not be the horse that we saw, for example, in the Kentucky Oaks. Do you make much of it? Is it potentially just, look, we watched Sierra Leone not be great at Saratoga last year, and then he jumps up this year. Is there any chance she just doesn't like Saratoga, or do you think she's a step slower?
I don't know necessarily that we didn't see her run as well as we've seen her in the Alabama. That pace did not set up for her, and Nitrogen might have just been the better horse on the day. I think Nitrogen's a top talent. I think Good Cheer's a top talent. It was great to see her actually engage in this race when last time in the Acorn Stakes she didn't. And so I think we saw a great performance from her this weekend, and hopefully, we could see her step forward from that. I'm not ready to say that that was a bad performance from her. I think
Okay.
maybe she just caught a really good horse in Nitrogen that day, and we'll see what she has going forward. But I think that was without winning, that was what we wanted to see from Good Cheer to show that she was back, and that Acorn was just a one-off, at least in my opinion.
Aaron Wellman from Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners has been very kind with his time on this show, and they get another Grade 1 winner in Velocity out west in the Del Mar Oaks, Sean. And this was one I do a Southern California show and column on the
Yeah,
horse.
you were on top of this one.
I love this horse coming in. All of the developmental factors made sense for Horror to win a race like this, which is listed as a Grade 1, but is probably, look, there's no Nitrogen in that field. There's no Good Cheer in that field. There's no Lucara in that field. It's okay to say Lush Lips, fine horse. Others in that group, fine, but they're listed stakes winners or Grade 3 winners, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
This was, a full field. By the way, Del Mar, an AE in a Grade 1 with 12 horses because you need to move no, put the rail in for the Grade 1. Let the 12 run. I know it got down to 11, but just let the, anyways. Okay.
You got that out of your system?
I got it out of my system. That's right.
You've been holding that in for a couple days. I can
These
sense
Eclipse
it.
folks, man, they're picking off these Grade 1, 3-year-old Grade 1s. But Velocity, this one just made sense to me, right? Daughter of Nyquist. And interestingly, we're seeing the Nyquist babies and we're seeing the Cripes the Pharaohs too, but also the Justify babies able to switch over to the grass really well. Well, she tried a bunch of sprinting in the spring. Mike McCarthy knows what he's doing with a 3-year-old, brings her along. She goes against winners going 2 turns for the first time. She goes and wins that. And then she wins this race. Sean, it feels like this year at Del Mar, these haven't been confirmation Grade 1s. They've been graduation Grade 1s. So the Bing Crosby, this race, rather than confirming that Velocity was one of the top turf fillies out west, which this wasn't a confirmation. This was a graduation from her. Are you surprised by that at Del Mar this year, or do you think this is kind of par for the course? Because I think of the Big Crosby as a graduation Grade 1, not a confirmation Grade 1.
No, yeah, I definitely think that's the case for some of these. And, a lot of it is just that, you see a horse like Nitrogen who's running on the East Coast in the Alabama instead. You see a lot of kind of those top Grade 1 horses. You saw a couple weeks ago where Johannes came over to Saratoga to run in the 4-star Dave. So you're seeing, and you're going to see probably a couple of these Bob Baffords coming out for the Alan Jerkins and, some of those races as well this weekend at Saratoga. So you're seeing, some of those top horses on the West Coast. You saw Journalism come over for the Haskell coming east. And so it is kind of more that graduation setup right now in California, kind of who are the horses that are going to step up in their place, and then when those horses come back later on in the year are going to be able to give them a tussle. But it was a great win from her. I know you were on top of that one, so congratulations on hitting that. And it was a good race to see her kind of take that step up.
It's been an interesting season at Del Mar as well, because obviously they had the conversation early in the meet about the CAWs and how much the lines were moving after the gate was breaking, that kind of stuff. And then they addressed that right away. They've moved into this new, they're trying these wagers out west that I like as well. That $3 minimum pick 3 at the end of the card, that's 15%, super playable. Those turf pick 3s that have popped up all over the country, which are spectacular. The $5 double to close the day at Del Mar. So I'm cautiously optimistic that they're seeing issues or opportunities, and they're trying to either remedy the first one or take advantage of the second one. I think we've seen some good positives at Del Mar this season.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so let's get into our interviews for the day. Brian Klatsky is going to be our first from BBN Racing here. Sean, you look at you, heavy lifting on this show today. What's this conversation about? Is there anything going in, little teaser that stood out to you in the comments?
Yeah, well, this is going to be a tough task this weekend. We got 4 horses that are going to take on Kentucky Derby at Belmont Stakes winner Sovereignty. Bracket Buster was one of the ones who came in over the weekend as being confirmed to run in this race after he had a pretty nice breeze out at Keeneland. And he's one of the long shots. He's 20-1 on the morning line. I think that's the co-longest shot in this field. He's coming off the 4th place finish in the Haskell, and I know this is a horse that the connections have been very high on since pretty early on in his career. He's late foal. He's developing. BBN's had some decent success recently. They won the test stakes with Kilwin a few weeks ago. They've had a couple horses in Grade 1 competition. They're gearing up for the Kentucky Downs meet with a good number of their horses as well. So we just went through all that. But Bracket Buster, you might be up against it from, past performance-wise here in the Travers this weekend. But hey, we've seen crazier things happen with
I
a name
watched
like
American
Bracket
Pharaoh
Buster.
lose this race by a lot of lengths.
Yeah.
Weirder things have happened in this race.
And if any horse is going to do it, why not Bracket Buster? We're ruining NCAA brackets out there.
Literally his
Let's
name.
ruin
That's right.
Sovereignty's year right here on Graveyard of Champions. But here's Brian Klatsky and what he had to say about Bracket Buster.
All right. Happy to be joined by Brian Klatsky of BBN Racing here. It's a good time to be part of BBN right now, Brian. You got Bracket Buster coming up in the Travers Stakes this weekend. You had Kilwin win a grade 1 out at Saratoga in the Test Stakes a couple of weeks ago. Just what's the feeling right now for the BBN team?
Well, Sean, thanks for having us on here. It's been really a wild summer. You know, we never expected to be in this situation. We started talking at the end of June. Wow, we might run in 3 grade 1s this summer, just hoping to have a shot. You know, we took our first shot in the Haskell, and then we took world record out to the Bing, and then Kilwin in the test. You know, we never really thought past the Haskell on Bracket Buster. So to be here in a situation, to be a part of a 5-horse field, to take on Sovereignty again, we faced him when he was a maiden in the street sense at Churchill. So here we are, almost 10 months later, trying it again.
Yeah. Well, hey, things change in the course of 10 months, right? Now,
Yep.
What was it about, or what is it about him that you guys really like to give him this opportunity, not just in the Travers, but when you ran him in the Haskell? What is it about this horse that you guys really like?
Well, I think what we've said since the beginning was he's a late May foal. Everything he's done, it's come naturally to him. If you go back to his first career start, Vicky ran him in August last summer at Indiana just to get a race in him. I think he missed the break, spotted the field 20 lengths, and he made a move down the stretch, which was very reminiscent of what Kilwin did in the test. And after that race, we're like, wow, this horse is going to be okay. From there, we came back at Churchill. Race didn't go his way. We stretched out the 2 turns, and then he, you know, showed us something special when he broke his maiden at Keeneland in the fall. So we always knew there was something there. Vicky saw it early in his training, saw it in that debut. We knew being a late foal, we wanted to give him a long winter break to grow into himself, and that's why we got a late start this year, bringing him back in the Lexington, and that's here we are, end of the summer.
Yeah, I remember going into the Lexington. I remember hearing a lot of stuff about him. Just, you know, this is going to be one of those horses that was really starting to show himself as a 2-year-old and now is getting the start, maybe one of those late developers in the year. And here we are running in these summer races, the big summer races.
No, it's been an unbelievable story with him. I'd say that we probably came back a little quick after the Lexington in that allowance race on Derby Day at Churchill. We gave him a good 6 weeks into the Pegasus, and he ran, you know, really a big time race that day. The Haskell's a Haskell. We ran against a great group in there. I think we were pressed on the pace. We went a little bit faster than we wanted. We sort of set the table for the rest of the field. But you know, if you watch down the stretch, you know, that other horse, the other speed horse, sort of fell into our lap. We had to get outside, and although he was tiring, he fought on and fought again. And Johnny V was like, you know what, this horse was not done yet. So we thought, what are we going to do next? We didn't really know. A couple weeks went by after the Haskell. The race at Charlestown looked really interesting. 2 turns, 7 furlongs. But that's an uncharted waters, taking a shot on the bull ring at Charlestown. And,
Yeah.
you know, we started hearing from the racing office in New York, this race is going to come up light. You guys should take a serious look at it. And that's sort of where we got to where we are today.
Well, you kind of mentioned it a little bit there, but when you look at the small field here in the Travers, obviously 5 horses, Sovereignty's in there, but how much of a, you know, benefit is that for you guys as an owner, thinking, you know, we just, even if Sovereignty runs the race he's been running the last couple of weeks, you know, we could still pick up a second, a third, get a grade 1 placing on this horse in a big race like the Travers. How much does that play into the decision?
Well, that plays a lot. I don't think anybody is dismissing the fact that Sovereignty is a special horse. He has a chance to be a Hall of Fame type of horse. And for us, it's not necessarily are we as good as Sovereignty today. we'll take our shot. And if we were to hit the board and in a grade 1 and run second or third here with this horse, it means a lot. We understand the significance of the Travers. It's a very important part of racing, and to be a part of it is something that, we don't take for granted. It's an honor and a blessing to be in this situation.
Well, you still definitely have a shot in this race. After all, it is the Graveyard of Champions. So weirder things have happened, and he's got the right name for this kind of upset with Bracket Buster here. Where'd the name come from? Who's the NCAA tournament fan?
Oh, come on. We're all BBN is all about basketball. One of my sons played at Florida. The other one plays at Georgia now. And we're big SEC fans. And obviously the NCAA tournament, a lot of BBN partners are sports basketball fans. So the name sort of came from, if you look at the dam's name, Spring Dance, we think of the big dance in the spring as the NCAA tournament. And that's where the Bracket Buster name came from.
Awesome. Well, also another horse who I like the backstory of her name is Kilwin. When I was at Saratoga a couple days ago, I just had some Kilwins, the little chocolate and candy store there. Had to do that at least once after her win in the test. But take us back to test day. How exciting was that seeing her, really far behind in the early stages and then mount that rally to get up in time?
Well, I think we went from panic, like, is she okay? Is she hurt? What's going on here? Like there was that 15-20 second period after the break where like something's not right. And then obviously after the race, you see the replay and saw the stumble, but on the live feed, we had no idea what happened. So if you talk to any of us, for that first 15-20 seconds of the race, we were ready to go home. She gave the effort we had hoped for. She did it. And it was, I don't think we'll ever be able to match that moment of to be in that situation with the stumble, spot the field, 15 lanes and make that move in a grade 1. Maybe you've seen it in allowance races or maiden races, but I don't think I've ever seen it in a grade 1 to overcome that kind of break against that kind of field is just something that you're never going to forget.
Yeah, especially in a 7 furlong sprint too. There's not a lot of time to make that up. But looking at that race, and she had shown some talent on the turf course before as well. You guys had made the choice in June to try her on the dirt. She wins that race. She comes back, is now 2 for 2. Just take us back to that decision to try her on the dirt after already having a successful start on the grass. We saw the same thing with Nitrogen this past weekend. So take us through the mindset of an owner when it comes to that choice.
Well, I think Nitrogen was in a similar boat as us. You get your career started as a 2-year-old on a turf race to take a shot at Kentucky Downs. We never, in her morning work, we never said, oh, she's a turf horse. But, Rusty's had such great success with Twirling Candies, both on turf and dirt. He's like, look, we're going to start here at Ellis and try and go after a nice race at Kentucky Downs. And after you win $1 million race on the grass, everyone just assumes you're a grass horse. We fast forward to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile turf. She had not the trip we had hoped for. She went out there 44 and change on the front. As you can see the way she ran in the test and the way she won the Untappable, she likes to come off it. So that race and the fact that she hung on with that kind of speed, Nitrogen did finish 3rd that day. That was a heck of a race. And this year, Rusty always said, we're going to find a spot just to try the dirt. But, after you win $1 million race on the grass, it's hard to want to experiment. With Concrete Rose, Rusty said the same thing. He's like, we'll find a time to test with Concrete Rose, but she never lost on the grass. So how do you just say we're going to try the dirt today? Nitrogen got lucky because one came off and she had a chance to test the dirt that way. But usually the grade 1s, grade 2s, they don't take them off. They just reschedule them now.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest with you, after the 2 5.5 sprints to start the year off, we could see she needed more distance. It wasn't a surface thing. It was like, hey, she wants to go a little bit further than 5.5. She won that Kentucky Downs race at 6.5. So the way the Leslie's Lady was coming up at 7 furlongs, Rusty's like, look, this is the perfect timing because ultimately, at the end of the day, our goal is to get back to Kentucky Downs. If we test in June here, we'll know where we're at, and then we can pick our next race. So obviously, after we won at 7/8 on the dirt at Churchill, it was okay. Do we go back to the grass now to get ready for Churchill? And then as she trained up to the test, he's like, she's doing nothing here that tells me that we need to try a turf race again. Let's stick with our plan. We'll go give her 5 weeks into the Kentucky Downs race. We'll run in the test, and I'm not running here just to run her. We're running here because I think she can win it. And the way things worked out, it happened to be a really great move by Rusty.
Yeah, I'd say that was the right call for sure. Well, the Music City Stakes is coming up now in a couple weeks at Kentucky Downs. Just how has she been since the test, and is she still on target for that?
Yeah, no, she loved it up in Saratoga. We kept her up there a little bit longer just to let her get ready. She's back. She shipped down to Keeneland actually this weekend, and we think she came out of the race great. So we're still about 3 weeks away, or 2.5, 3 weeks away, and I think she's going into the race the way we want her to. She's lightly raced, like I said. You're going into your biggest race of the year as your 5th start. We had the 2 5.5 turf sprints and the 2 dirt races. So to be in September in your 5th race, I think from a timing and having her fresh at the right time, I think we're going into it the right way.
How much of a good feeling is that as an owner, knowing the dirt, turf, doesn't matter. If the spot's right, we'll run her. How much does that kind of help you guys in this decision process going forward?
Well, I think it just gives us options. At the end of the day, the key when you have a really nice filly mare like this is you want to be able to be a grade 1 horse. And now that she's a grade 1 winner, we can be really selective, find the right spots that fit. So I think as you look forward to this year, end of this year into next year, I think you're going to see her on both surfaces.
Awesome. Well, also pointing towards Kentucky Down is a maiden that you guys have that I know you're pretty high on in Mackinac. The horse that she finished second to in her debut just came back and won the Bolton Landing Stakes yesterday at Saratoga, Snowface Princess. So that's got to make you guys feel good ahead of her trip to Churchill or Kentucky Downs, doesn't it?
It does. We were not disappointed with her first start. Snowface Princess ran a heck of a race that day. To be honest with you, we were pretty high on her. We said it's going to take a good filly to beat her that day, and apparently Snowface Princess turned out to be a pretty good one. So we probably picked the toughest maiden race of the meet for turf fillies on the grass at Saratoga, but she got a lot out of that race. She breezed this weekend on the grass at Keeneland and has moved quite a bit forward, we think, from where she was even on her debut day. And we're going into Kentucky Downs with 3 different races we're looking at. And as everybody knows, these races overfill. There's a lot of luck of the draw when it comes to Kentucky Downs. It's a 7-day meet, and there's hundreds of horses that are trying to get in these races. So we're going to let the entry box sort of dictate where we go, but there's 3 races we've got circled.
Yeah. How this meet at Kentucky Downs has really taken off over the last couple of years. I know you guys have these 2 pointing that way. I'm not sure if you guys have any other ones pointing that way, but how important is this meet now for owners, especially when you have a Kentucky bred?
Well, I think when we started BBN, we'll be going into our 8th crop this year. The Kentucky Downs program, the KTDF money was a big part of our business plan as we saw this surge of money coming from historical racing slots as an opportunity to invest in racehorses and bring new people into the game. And Kentucky Downs is sort of the center of all that. It's really for us, everything we buy is a Kentucky bred. We usually buy everything at Keeneland, and fast forward a year later, they're 2-year-olds, and we hope to get a bunch of those started with Kentucky Downs races. We try to maybe get one in beforehand, but then we'll have 2 or 3 first-time starters at Kentucky Downs as well.
So, well, to kind of start wrapping us up here, I always want to kind of give a little shout out to the group and everything. Just take me through how BBN came together. I know it's yourself, Braxton, Brendan. Just how did this group kind of come to be?
It goes back probably 25 years. I started off in racing with Vicky Oliver as my trainer. She was just getting her career started at Monmouth Park. Jeremy Rosen and Ed Rosen made the introduction. We were the same age. We really hit it off. So for almost 2 decades, she's trained for me. I've partnered with her father with a lot of horses. And Braxton's been good friends with Vicky dating back then. So I met Braxton probably when we were all in our late 20s at that. And over the years, I've had mares at Braxton's farm, and we've always talked about there's got to be a way to build a syndicate with the right horsemen for a great experience where it doesn't become like a big financial strain. And what we came up with in our model was we take a one-time capital contribution of $25,000, and that basically covers the purchase price and all of the training bills. We reserve about 50% of the money we raise towards future bills. So you're never going to get a bill in the mail. And we hope to return capital through our, broodmare sales, purse money. And, we've, knock on wood, we've been really successful. We'll spend about $1.1 to $1.3 million each year, try to buy 6 or 7 this year. We're going to probably buy 8 to 10. And we try to keep our average purchase price around 175 to 200,000. And that's really just what makes our selection process maybe a little different than others is it's really a team. Our selection team with Bo Bromagen, Vicky, Rusty, Braxton, Brendan, myself. You've got so many sets of eyes on each of our horses that there's checks and balances. And we're just looking for great athletes. I think being a great athlete comes even before pedigree in our process. So being in a situation where you have experienced horsemen that have been around this their whole lives, and that many sets of eyes, what's really, if anybody ever sees us at Kilwin in sort of the war room at the table in the middle of the bar, we don't hold back. Like we will insult each other. We get to the bottom of this thing. Like when we go into the ring to buy something, there's a pretty good consensus. We have everybody's opinion on it. And there is definitely some groupthink. It's no different than a war room for an NBA or an NFL draft.
Awesome. Well, we hope that you drafted the correct one here at Bracket Buster this weekend. Best of luck to you and the team and the Travers. Also, I should mention as well, best of luck with Trademark in the Charlestown Classic this weekend as well. But thank you for joining us here, Brian. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Sean.
Brian Klatsky there, of course, from BBN Racing. Little noise in the background out there at Emerald Downs. Why not, Shawnee? I like that. Good stuff with him. By the way, how many NFL drafts has he been part of? Just stuff like that. You're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. Isn't it amazing what we get to do with this show and all the things that people say things casually, like, we average 200,000 on a horse.
Yep.
But I get it. I mean, that's frankly, when you talk about those numbers and what we've seen at both the Fasig-Tipton sale at Saratoga and then in the New York bred sale, it's not a ridiculous. If you're trying to win at the level that they're trying to win at, that's not a ridiculous price. And frankly, it sounds like their process is it's an interesting one, right? Where they want people involved. They want you to feel like you were, not just throwing money into the pot to try to figure it out. They want you involved in the process too. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is, and I'm trying to pull up here right quick. I know he told me after the interview what the purchase price was on a couple of these horses. So I'm pulling up Bracket Busters right here. It's they got Bracket Buster for just $125,000.
Yeah, right.
So they're finding these horses. Kilwin was also pretty similarly cheap. So you're looking at where they're being able to pick out some of these horses, and we'll see what Bracket Buster can do this weekend. But he's already a stakes winner. You have Kilwin, who's a Grade 1 winner. You have quite a few other horses that they've been successful with as well. Trademark, who's running this weekend, and so they're able to find them for what we consider to be these kind of lower prices in these sales, and they're turning them into some big time horses. I mean, Bracket Buster was $125,000 purchase. He's already earned $286,000 on the racetrack. So already getting that return on the investment there.
It's fascinating to watch. The other part of that really stood out to me, I wasn't ready for him to talk about Kentucky Downs the way that he did and how important that money is for their operation. And I appreciate the candor there, because this is an expensive game for sure. And when you can get a spot like Kentucky Downs, I know it's 7 days, and he talked about overflow fields and try to get in and whatever else. You and I go down there a lot, frankly, Sean, and it is like that. It's 12-14 in every race, and good luck getting in, especially those 2-year-old races, what have you. But it's interesting to hear him talk explicitly about using Kentucky Downs as I don't want to use the word fundraiser, but as a spot that pays bills, frankly.
Yeah, well, the way the purse money's gotten this year, or the last couple of years, you're starting to see where this is going to become one of the feature meets for a lot of owners. This is the meet that you're going to target to. I mean, the Music City Stakes that Kilwin's about to run in is a grade 2. She just ran in the grade 1 test, but it was the grade 2 Music City that they're kind of had in the back of their minds the whole time, as this is the race we want to end up in at the end of the year. So that purse money is going to start really kind of making a change. You're starting to see, I remember I wrote an article last year ahead of the Keeneland yearling sale about some of the change in owners starting to look maybe a little bit more for those turf horses when they're at the yearling sales than they used to, because everybody goes to the yearling sales and they want to win the Kentucky Derby, so they're looking for those dirt colts. But now there's extra incentive to be looking for that horse that can run on the turf.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see where horses like Kilwin, like Nitrogen are so valuable, where they can swap back and forth between the surfaces, because you could be running in some of these grade 1s on the dirt throughout the early half of the year, and then you could switch over to the grass and go for one of these big, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million races that they have there. And it looks like those purses are only going to keep going up from here. So it's a big player for a lot of these owners who have a nice grass horse.
Very unhot take, but I think this is the future of the sport, by the way, Sean, is horses that run on multiple surfaces, because think about what the updates to the new tracks are. Belmont's putting a synthetic course in the middle, right? You're going to have horses that are going to be multiple surface. We already see it at Gulfstream. They use the heck out of that Tapeta. They use it very effectively, frankly. They card a lot of good races on that surface down there. Obviously in Kentucky, you're running at Turfway for 3 months, almost 4 by the time we get to wintertime around the Commonwealth here. And so I do think this is the future, man. I think the very best in our sport are going to be the horses, as far as maintaining your bills and doing those different things, are going to be the ones that can do a little bit of everything. And I think a horse like Kilwin is unusual in that she can be that effective in graded company on multiple. But I think a lot of horses like this are going to be the future of our sport, and I welcome it.
Yes, I know. Anytime you can have kind of that big star that can do a whole bunch of different things, that's always best case scenario. But Bracket Buster this weekend in the Travers Stakes, I know we got a tough task with him this weekend. What do you think of his chances?
I don't, but I understand why they're doing it. And you asked the real question, and I appreciate, by the way, it's one of the things I've really enjoyed about this show is I feel like you and I just ask direct questions. Like, are you trying to get grade 1 placed here? Like, are you just right? Yes. Appreciate the honesty. Yes.
I mean,
we're trying to hit the board here, figure out what that looks like at 10 furlongs, and then try to hit the board. That, to me, that's what they're trying to do. Get another check, just keep moving on.
Yeah, you get lucky and Sovereignty doesn't run his race that day, and you could be in the shot to win. If you don't get that lucky and Sovereignty runs his race, if you have a great shot to run second or third, you're going to be up on the pace depending on how you and Magnitude kind of play that out between those two.
No guarantee Magnitude loves Saratoga. There's all kinds of things.
Exactly. Yep. Depending on how those two kind of play out on the lead, you could look at where he could be hanging around at the end. He could hold on, get that second. He could hold on, get that third. That's still a big paycheck from the purse money standpoint, but then also that adds a lot of value to him as well, being at grade 1 place. So that's it's an important thing to think about. I mean, we talked to Barry Irwin 2 weeks ago about Queen Azteca going into the Alabama, and he said we're not going in there with the expectations that we're going to win. We're going in there just trying to hit the board, try to get that grade 1 placing on her, and kind of move forward from there, see where she stacks up. Now, I did talk to Barry the day before the Alabama, because we did that interview before the post draw happened, and he mentioned, he's like, well, that we ended up getting a couple more fillies than we were expecting, a couple top fillies. So, but she still ran a decent race for her first start in the U.S. But that's an important piece of this as well, is trying to find these spots when you see that nobody is going to really go up against Sovereignty like it looked like was going to happen. I think up until Saturday, we only had 3 horses that were scheduled for this. Why not jump in and take a shot and try to get that grade 1 placing, try to get that second or third place first money?
Yeah, I was wondering if we'd see a horse like Crudo in this Travers, something like that. I was a little surprised to see some of those horses not even just take a stab at it, because a guy like Bobby Flay, who's in the ownership of Crudo, that's his track, man. He's a Saratoga guy. Go take the shot in the Travers, right? He's won to play before. So I don't know. $1.25 million race with 5 horses in it. I'll never get used to it, Sean. Let's bring in Frank, get his reaction, everything we're talking about here. Frank Angst, of course, from BloodHorse, BloodHorse.com. Our fearless editor on this thing that we call BloodHorse Monday. Any reaction to what we've been talking about, Frank?
No, just good stuff. Always good to hear owners and partnership owners and the strategy. Really kind of broke down what they try to do and puts it all out there. And I mean, it sounds like a good thing to be a part of for sure.
It's interesting too, Frank, as we watch purses rise in some places and say stagnant in others and what have you, and that kind of that moving around. it's interesting and nice to hear, frankly, that owners still care about those graded stakes, right? It's not just the cash that they care about in these. There's prestige involved in some of these things in a game, frankly, where you need more money than prestige to get along. It's nice to still hear those things that, that a Del Mar Oak still has value, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And he mentioned one of their revenue generators is sales of brood mares. So that's very helpful in doing that and getting a good number for that.
Kilwin might pay some bills at the end of her running career. I don't see her slowing down anytime soon, Frank. But over the weekend, that Alabama, the 10 furlongs, we get nitrogen over the weekend. She's turned it into a special little 3-year-old, doesn't she?
I mean, she's really positioned herself well for championship honors. I mean, there's not too many holes you can poke. There's still some big races coming up. So, nothing's decided yet. There's still some opportunity there. But I'd say she's at the front of the class at this point.
I know you're working hard on the magazine. Of course, bloodhorse.com. You can click on the magazine tab at the top of the homepage. You go get signed up there. And of course, if you're watching, you can catch the QR code at the bottom of the screen once that pops up. Frank, what are you working on for the magazine?
Yeah, that'll be the September issue, and the virtual issue will come out tomorrow, and the hard copies will be mailed out tomorrow. And we're doing a lot of new things with our virtual magazine platform. Nice. So just go on there and check it out for yourself is my advice. You can really do a lot more with stories than what you were able to do like a year ago. So that's been a big improvement. And the September issue is terrific. We had Lenny Schulman had a good idea, and it's a fun story on Vinny Viola, who's of course a prominent owner and breeder, Jockey Club member. And he, of course, I think many of us know, is also the owner of the Florida Panthers, back-to-back NHL Stanley Cup champions. And then Everett Dobson, also a prominent owner or breeder, is one of the owners of the Oklahoma City Thunder, who just won the NBA. So that's some considerable leadership. And Everett's, of course, doubly interesting as he just took over as chairman of the Jockey Club.
Right. Yeah, no, that should be a lot of fun. And frankly, it's very chicken or the egg, Sean. What do you think came first? Success with the Stanley Cup or horses? Like, it's very difficult. You don't have to answer that. That's above your pay. You worry about Emerald Downs.
We translate the success of those sports over to the horses.
Yeah, there you go.
It's every time they bring the Stanley Cup around,
if you're sharp enough to be a successful owner in this game, you're pretty sharp in any sport, I would say, for sure.
You were up there at Saratoga for the sale and different things, Frank, and I know that we went through the sale, and the state bred sale was right after that. Now that you've had a couple of days to kind of ruminate on it, anything stand out, a couple days on?
Yeah, I mean, the top end has been strong. So the select sale, that's very much the top end. It's meant to be going in, but that showed another level of strong. So that's certainly encouraging. Last year's sale was a success, and that ended up proving out that the yearling crop did very well. This is another level of success. So hopefully that's a good sign for the things ahead. Actually, the September issue is our Market Watch Keeneland sale preview, and just has every number you could want. Terrific analysis from Pete Denk. So that's kind of a must read as any owners or buyers and sellers prepare their strategy going into that sale. But yeah, I mean, you can't say anything but good news coming out of it. I mean, it was just an amazing night of sales. It was just one after the other. I think there's a lot of confidence in the game right now. Some new blood, some amount of new blood in the game. There's confidence in the top sires for sure. Yep. Into Mischief keeps doing it. Gunrunner keeps doing it. Not this time. I mean, it's Curlin just over and over. You see that success. And, that sale's very much driven toward winning the biggest races in the country. And those are sires that have done it.
I'm a host and a horse player in different things, Frank. I will be very clear about one thing. Before I did this show, the sales were not part of my heavy rotation vocabulary, etc. Is this even for the sport, an unusual number of high-end quality sires right now? Is this an unusually high number? Because it feels, to me at least, I've been following the sport since 2006 or something like that. Feels pretty high the last 20 years, frankly.
I feel like the success on the track in dirt races has been really good. Okay. I mean, we've seen some sires that they establish that name and they keep doing well at sales, and they're generating top sales numbers. You don't always see it quite as much on the track. I don't want to pick on any sire, and I mean, we're talking about past sires, but and they had some level of success clearly, or else they wouldn't have gotten there.
That's right.
But I mean, Into Mischief just keeps doing it over and over with Derby winners. You know, that's plenty to see. That's going to give you nothing but confidence. Gunrunner has broken all kinds of records as a young stallion, relatively young stallion still. Curlin, his books aren't as big as some others, but he keeps doing it over and over. So yeah, they're doing it on the track. Other stallions have done it as well. But it just, yeah, I mean, that I think that's what people are seeing. You know, you look at Tappet, he had some top dirt runners and some top turf runners, and now he's hitting as a broodmare sire. So that's exciting to see too. And he's still around producing, he's still an active sire as well. It's very attractive. So yeah, I think there's something to be said for that, Louie. I agree.
Yeah, it seems really high level. And frankly, I think it's trickled into some other spots. And I think that's why you're seeing the numbers at the New York sale as well, right? They know the money's going to be there purse wise. They know the opportunity is going to be there, whether it's at, renovated Belmont or at Saratoga, that kind of thing. Eventually, if you want to be in this game, New York's a good spot to be for sure. And long-term with the investment in the sport, it's good to see that on the sales side as well, Frank, where there was obvious, not just confidence in New York, high level confidence that the very highest level stakes as well, that Stallion Series, whatever you want to call it, is going to be worthwhile for owners as well. So I thought that part was really positive too.
I mean, you look at those New York bred mares. Some years they're with Kentucky Stallions, some years they're with New York Stallions. I mean, these are some of the most productive mares in the world, frankly. So that sale, deserves to do as well as any other. You can put whatever stamp on the horse, New York bred. But those are well-bred horses for sure.
Well, he's Frank Angst again, bloodhorse.com. Click on the magazine tab at the top of the homepage, get signed up, or if you happen to be watching, QR code right on the screen for you there for YouTube or Spotify watchers there. If you do go to the homepage, look for the tab that says daily at the top. Come straight to your email, no cost to you every single day from the fork. Start your day with BloodHorse and bloodhorse.com. Frank, appreciate you, buddy. See you next week.
Thanks, guys.
There you go. All right. And Frank Angst, appreciate him jumping in. Sales talk, Sean. I'm getting all excited by sales talk now. It's a big change in my life in 2025. I'll tell you.
I know. Well, this is going to be extra exciting for you based off of what's coming up here.
I know. We'll keep the talk, buddy. It's going to be happening. I'm fascinated by all this, but we do have one more interview to get to on this program today. You are out west look, man, you're at Emerald Downs, and you're in a spot that I think.
I am.
I think for many of us, I don't want to call it a forgotten spot or anything like that, but the Mariners or the Seahawks or whatever, we know they're going to play the 10 o'clock evening game. It's going to be out there. I know of Emerald because the takeout rate on pick threes is 12%, and I love that. That's my favorite ticket in the world is a pick three, and getting the lowest takeout of pick threes that I can think of, maybe Canterbury. It was very attractive to me. Your experience at the Longacres Mile, we'll get to that tomorrow after this interview here. But kind of a primer here as you talk to the president of the track there. What should we expect from this conversation?
Well, first, let me give you a little backstory here. So this has been a plan that I've had to come out here to Emerald Downs for a couple of months. I've been kind of going back and forth on the idea of whether or not I come out here because I'm someone who likes to check off all these big racetracks, and this was a weekend where I could make it work. And oddly enough, at the Corgi race at Saratoga a couple weeks ago, actually just a week ago, I met Phil Ziegler. He was out at Saratoga for the Corgi race. That was something that's become really popular out here at Emerald Downs. A lot of their fan interaction events, whether it be the Corgi race, the people dressing up in the T-Rex costumes and running, the grandparents race, they do a lot of those kind of, extra.
Whoa, grandparents race?
Have you not seen that? You got to look that up. You had the one grandparent.
I mean, I appreciate that there's time left on this
landing.
show, but I'm not going to watch the rest of it because I have grandparent race replays to go watch. Are there past performances for Doris and for what's the grandpa's name? Bill? Is he Bill?
Bill.
Yeah, it's Bill. Bob, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe Bob.
But yeah, so they've done a great job at generating crowd size out here. And yesterday it was filled with
Oh, it
people
looked
here
great on TV.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked great yesterday. It was filled with people, and that's not even their busiest day on Longacres Mile Day because they have so many other kind of fun events. They've gotten some great, like the Corgi race has been picked up by ESPN the last couple of years. They're still playing the replay of the 2022 Corgi race here at Emerald every once in a while on their different channels. So, it's something that brings publicity to the track. This track plays a huge role in the local environment. And so it was great talking to Phil. That was ultimately when I met Phil at the Corgi race last week. That was the final thing that pushed me into coming out here to come see the racetrack for myself. It was a great day of racing with Arrow the Great, ending up winning the race.
That's
You're
right.
going to see, we'll talk about this after the fact, but you're going to see this interview. We did this before the races. We accidentally made some correct predictions, it seemed like, throughout the day. So unfortunately, all the bettors are going to be listening to us after the races have happened. But yeah, so it was a great interview with Phil, kind of what Emerald does to kind of help increase that crowd interaction. So we'll go right on into my conversation with him.
Professional handicapper Phil Ziegler. Here's Sean Collins.
All right. Well, I am here at Emerald Downs in Auburn, Washington with Phil Ziegler, the president of Emerald Downs. I made it out here, Phil. I told you I might last week.
I know. It's amazing. We saw each other 3,000 miles from here a week ago at Saratoga, and now you're here at Emerald, where it's a little bit cooler than it was there.
Yes, the temperature is definitely a whole lot better here than it was when I left Saratoga, especially after yesterday on Alabama Day. But we were watching the Corgi races last time that we saw each other. What made you come all the way out to Saratoga to see that?
They were interested in doing Corgi races at Saratoga, and Naira Content Management handles our simulcasting here, and we have a relationship with them, and they knew we did Corgi races. So Tony had asked me about coming and helping with Corgi races and maybe giving them some of our rules and things and how we do it. So kind of helped them along as they did their first Corgi races. And then I couldn't miss seeing them, so I had to be there. And it was just spectacular to see the crowd reaction. Pretty much the same everywhere when those little dogs are out there, and the smiles and on kids' faces and adults' faces was when they're watching those dogs run.
Well, I know we're talking about horse racing usually, but speaking of corgis, you mentioned rules. What kind of rules come into place in a corgi race? I thought it was pretty straightforward. Just let them run.
Well, you got to sign them up, and then like what distance is it going to be? And you got to have the banner, for the start line and the finish line. And there's more involved in this,
I know. I never would have guessed this.
I know this sport has taken off because I think they had 3 different dogs that had won NFL halftime corgi races from the Buffalo Bills, the Giants, and I think somebody won the Eagles, I believe, as well. And we see the same thing here. The Seahawks do it, and a bunch of other NFL teams, basketball teams, hockey teams. Everybody's doing corgi racing now. It has become a huge sensation.
I know. I remember hearing as they were announcing some of the dogs coming out onto the track. We're getting way off topic here right as we start, but I think that's okay because people love corgis. But I remember just them announcing like, oh, this corgi has won this race, and this corgi has won this race, and I was like, are there qualifiers for this? I was surprised.
It's become like a thing, and these people are taking their dogs. And when we first did corgi racing and wiener dog racing and all those things, the dogs would run all over the place, right? They didn't know what to do. Well, now they know what to do because they've been practicing, and people are training them to run. And it's about 40 yards distance, and it's amazing how good they have gotten. So there's this whole circuit taking place, and we have a show on ESPN every year with our corgi races that a lot of folks have probably seen. This will all come full circle, don't worry.
Exactly.
Yes, it's going to come full circle while we're talking about the corgis.
Well, speaking of the corgi races, out here at Emerald Downs in Washington, you guys are kind of on an island from the rest of thoroughbred racing, at least in the United States. I know you got some maybe Canadian tracks that are a little closer. But, for you guys, that plays a big role in getting attendance out here. Some of these events that you do, whether it be the corgi races, the wiener dog races, the T-Rex races, first of all, whose ideas have these been to get these going? And then how have you guys kind of used this to turn into crowd attendance?
Well, in some cases, Emerald Downs has been doing this since even before I was here under the previous ownership. Ron Crockett and his group, they did wiener dog races many, many years ago before almost any racetrack. So the dog thing kind of started there. But I think the great leap was saying, well, you have at a racetrack, you have generally 25 to 30 minutes in between races, and there's always some time and for the fans to be engaged in something else going on. So I like to say, if you have 9 races, you have 8 half times. So during those half times, people are going to go get food once or twice. They may go to the paddock, they may get ice cream, and then if you can give them something else in that other time period, then they walk out and they realize, you spend 4.5 hours at a racetrack and you're seeing maybe 12 minutes of racing. But if all this other stuff happens, they walk out here saying, wow, that was a full day. That was a lot of fun. So you have this track out there. And the other thing I think that was the genesis for some of this was at baseball games where they let the kids run the bases, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if the kids can run the bases, then why can't the kids run down the stretch of a racetrack? Because it's better set up for that. If you think about it, where the fans are watching and you're running to a finish line. So we started doing kids races here where we set up the starting gate, and it's not competitive. And the kids all run through the gate and they get to run to the finish line. And sometimes we'll have 200 to 250 kids out there running in these races. And then we give them an ice cream at the end in the winner's circle. And all the parents are taking pictures and videos. And it's just so much fun to see everybody smiling and having a good time. And then it takes maybe 6-7 minutes, and then the track crew comes through and grooms the track, and we're ready for the next race.
There you go. And it's not just the kids. We had the grandparents out there.
Oh, the grandparents, yes. If you haven't seen the viral video, it's out there.
Yes,
it's been a couple of them, but the first one, a couple of guys went down, and we begged them to take it easy. They didn't listen. They went down. They were okay, and that video went viral all across the world. It's amazing how people in Australia were waking up to the news and seeing. In Emerald Downs in the U.S., they had a race for grandparents. Now, nobody has done that one before.
I know.
That was an original. And nobody, strangely enough, has copied us on that one yet.
Well, we'll have to start getting the circuit going. We'll start shipping grandparents across the country.
I don't know. Somebody says you have them sign a waiver, and I said, the second year we did.
Well, how much, for you guys kind of being, a smaller track, maybe don't always necessarily get the top horses coming out here. How much does that play a role into really kind of ingraining the racetrack into the community and kind of guaranteeing your success for the races themselves?
Yeah, now, from the horse standpoint, it's a beautiful place to run horses. The weather is ideal for the horses. We run April through September, and generally speaking, the weather in this part of the country, folks thinks it rains, Seattle, doesn't rain all the time. Well, it does in the wintertime. It's pretty gloomy, but during the summertime, it doesn't rain much, and our track is fast almost every day. And it is great conditions, and the folks that come here love it. And the trainers, in fact, this year, because of no Northern California racing, we have quite a few trainers that have come up here for the first time. And they all remark about, the stable area is so well kept, the barn area is so well maintained. And for a 30-year-old facility, this place looks pretty darn good. So great facilities. We really try to take care of our horsemen. Little things like having, cable TV hookups in the dorm rooms and things like that. Every little thing we can do. We have a great track kitchen, and the community around here really embraces the horse racing. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah. You mentioned that facility right before we started this interview. You took me on the grand tour of the racetrack, and I agree with you. It looks fantastic for being 30 years old. We see the paddock kind of back behind us as we're sitting here. You kind of have your picnic areas out there. Just how does the facility itself generate into making it an easy experience on the fans? I know you mentioned to me as we were walking around how easy it is to get from the paddock to where you can actually watch the races, how they're kind of side by side. Just how does that help kind of, increase the fan experience while they're here, just the facility itself?
Yeah, everything is pretty close. So if you come on track level and you want to get ice cream, it's close by. You want to get a hot dog or a hamburger, it's close by. You want to go to the paddock and see the horses, it's close by. You want to pet the pony horses, if your kid wants to pet the pony horses, it's close by. If you want a good view of the race from the apron, you have a great view of the race. We have a big screen. So the different, we're vertical. A lot of tracks are way more in length. This place is built with 6 floors. So you have pretty much a different experience. Track level is where most people want to be. We have box seats on the 3rd floor, and then our enclosed, if the weather is a little cold or rainy, you can go up to the 5th floor and see things out of an enclosed window there and get a great view of the track. And then we have suites up on our 6th floor. So different experiences no matter where you are, but everything is close by and convenient. And I think that's what people really like. So if you want to watch the horses in the paddock, you can do it every race and go back and forth and just take a few steps.
Yeah. And I'm out here today for the Longacres Mile. Now, by the time all of our listeners and our viewers are watching this, the Longacres Mile would have already completed.
Yes.
But
we know who the winner is, right?
Yes, we'll know who the winner is. I'm
Yes.
sure Louie and I will be talking about that on the show here. But just what goes into getting today to happen? This is the biggest race at the track. Just take us through what goes into getting Longacres Mile Day off the ground.
Well, one of the things we made the change in the last couple of years, it used to be 2 stakes races, then we went to 4 stakes races. Now we have 6 stakes races on one day. So a lot of tracks have done that with success, and we're piling our stakes races onto these big race days. And then we're in all editions of the racing form. And then you get folks maybe shipping an extra horse because maybe they have a horse for one of the other races. So it's a great opportunity for owners, jockeys, trainers locally, and even a few from out of town to experience kind of where horse racing is the main event. Here on a day like today, the Longacres Mile has this huge tradition. It's 90th running today and 30 years at Emerald Downs. And it is truly the Derby of the Northwest. It's the one race when people grow up in this industry that they want to win. If you're, we've seen tears in the winner's circle over the years and people who their lifelong ambition and dreams were to win the Longacres Mile. Because if you're from around here, that's how much this race means. So it sells itself in that regard. It's a big race. It's a big race day. And I think that you look at similar races around the country that don't get the kind of attention, but the media attention and the attention from the local community, this is the big race. This is the one you want to win.
And we have a celebrity owner out here who's part of that this year too, right?
Arrow the Great, the horse, which may have won or not. We don't once this airs.
We've probably already said who won by the time you're watching
I don't know.
this.
Brian Malarkey is a chef who's well known. If you look him up, hosts a TV program and is a very popular and famous chef, and he's part owner of that horse.
Yeah.
So and he's from this area, so Northwest ties. And again, I believe he was quoted in the form of saying how much it means to him to be able to run in the Longacres Mile, have a horse in the mile. So a lot of folks just to have a horse in the mile, that's special.
Yeah, and I believe, is that the same horse that's trained by Dan Blacker?
Yes,
right?
it is.
So that's, for those watching on the horse racing side of things, Dan Blacker, as the trainer of Straight No Chaser, the champion sprinter from last year, Breeders' Cup winners last year. So you're getting big horsemen coming up here for this race.
And he's going to be here today, so it'll be good to see him here. And again, I think this race is special. Right.
Yeah.
And we got 5 other races as well that are stakes races, and all stakes pick 6 and pick 5 and pick 4. And people really kind of gravitate to those bets and love taking a shot. And we have a couple, again, after the fact, everybody's going to know if we're on it or not. Right. But there are a couple of horses that are going to be pretty heavy favorites today.
Yeah.
If a couple of them go down and lose, the pick 5s and pick 6s may pay a lot of money, and if all the favorites win, it's going to be one of those, $11 for 4 races. So who knows what's going to happen today? That's what makes it fun.
Yeah. Well, and I know you were mentioning to me earlier, a lot of these big odds on favorites or horses kind of trying something for the first time as well. Now, this doesn't help anybody listening to this betting because the races are already over.
These
but
fools don't know what they're talking about, right?
But I know this is after we have 6 straight 1-9 shots win.
Yeah.
But for Emerald, it's one of those things where this is something that you can expect when you're playing the pick 5s, the pick 6s here sometimes. And for handicappers who maybe don't usually give this track a look, it's a good opportunity to give you guys a look.
Yeah, and a couple of these races are 2 turns today. And the Longacres Mile, the tradition of the mile is that mile distance back in the 1933 when this race was developed, it was special because there weren't any other races really at this distance. It's a middle distance. It's still not a very popular distance if you look at all the races in the country. But there's a specialty to a horse that can go a mile, and it's your sprinters can sometimes get the mile. Your route horses can go the mile. It's a really great distance for a race like this that makes it very intriguing because at least one of the horses who's favored in the race he's a really good sprinter, and he almost won the race last year.
Yeah.
So it's going to be it's always a very intriguing race to try to handicap. I think every year. Yeah.
Well, I always like to, before we kind of, sign off here, I always like to, ask you about yourself. What got you into the sport? Tell us about you.
I'm originally from Long Island, so I grew up going with my dad to Belmont Park.
I'm a big fan of the Yankees jersey that he
fan
has
of the
here in his office.
Yes. And so, I was at the track. People say the good old days, traffic on the Cross Island Parkway to get to Belmont Park and all those years, and going to the harness track at night with my buddies during the college years and everything. Fell in love with horse racing, and this is how we're going to get back to full circle. Remember I said this is going to be full circle, right? This is full circle because somebody just told me, and it's really true. When I think about my own experience and so many other folks, they said there was a survey done by, I don't even know what company it was. I don't even think he knew what company it was who told me this. But like, if you don't develop a fan of a sport by the age of 12, there's a less likelihood they're ever going to become a fan of that sport.
Okay.
So if you're trying to, because so many of us talk about going with our dads, going with our grandparents, or going with our mom and dad on Mother's Day, or whatever it is, that's how it all starts when you're a kid. So when we do things like the corgi races, and we do things like the kids races, and we do all those things, it's families, it's people bringing their kids and grandkids to the racetrack. And that is the next generation of race fans. And it's making people fall in love. They may love the dogs. They'll see the horses. They love the horses.
Yeah.
And it brings them back. And that's how we get full circle, because that's what brings them into the sport of horse racing, and why it's so important to keep that family engagement in horse racing, so we can build those fans for the next generation, so that horse racing will thrive for many years to come, because there's a lot of competition out there.
There we go. We made it all the way around the circle.
Yes.
One final thing for you here, Phil. For any of the smaller tracks who maybe, are struggling with attendance across the country, what are any advice, any tips that you can give them to try to help boost those numbers?
Boys, that's a tough one. It's don't be afraid to have these promotions. I think we're seeing more of an acceptance of doing a corgi race out on the racetrack. We saw Saratoga do it. And
I know.
Everybody loved it. I mean,
and then as soon as it was over, the crowd cleared out. They all went home as soon as it was over.
That's no good, but it was kind of late in the day and it was hot.
Yes,
but
I know they spaced it out well, where you were there for a long portion of the card.
They kept them there, but when you see the smiles and all this, so and if it takes something we learned here, it takes 10 extra minutes in between races, then take 10 extra minutes. If it's going to bring thousands of people to the racetrack, and by the way, on those days, you'll see that they may be here for one of these other events, but boy, they're screaming and yelling when those horses are running.
Yeah,
and
running
they
up
might
to
be
the
betting
wagering
2 to show
windows.
or 2 to place or whatever, but they're all yelling and screaming. And sometimes I take video of just the crowd reaction to the horse races on these other days, and the jockeys even say how exciting it is to have the crowds.
Yeah.
So get folks to the track. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of tracks run on weekdays, and I understand why they do it, but people don't go to the track on weekdays, and you're not building fans by doing that. So the more you can have a few weekend race days and do something to get the folks out to the track and get them to bring their kids, I think the better. And that's what will keep us all around for a long time to come, I hope.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I won't keep you any longer. I know we're getting close to the first race here on Longacres Mile Day, but thank you so much for the hospitality. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us here, and I hope it's a great race day today.
Yeah, thanks for being here, and I hope you picked a lot of winners. By the time this airs, you'll know, right?
Let's hope. Let's hope. All right. Thank you, Phil.
Hey, thanks.
All right, Sean out there at Emerald Downs, see in the background still, and thanks to Phil. By the way, his name tag just said Phil. Your power moves, Sean, there are men who can play the power game. Phil's one of those guys. Very nice.
That's a burst.
An interview just says Phil. He doesn't need anything. Doesn't need anything. Phil.
Not to burst your bubble, but that was everybody on the staff. It was just the first name. But you are correct. You are correct.
This is, buddy, you need to learn. This is theater of the mind. You're screwing this up for people. All right. So, Emerald Downs, it's interesting. So, I learned a lesson probably about 2 years ago doing radio, and it was Grant Forster, who is a Pacific Northwest guy himself, who's now based in Kentucky. And I was just doing a simple interview with him, and we were hanging out for 10 minutes, and he said, and it was something I knew, but I'd never thought about. And you got to do it yesterday. There's something about being at a track on its biggest day, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter.
We talked about that. We talked about that at Indiana Derby Day a couple weeks ago. Just being at the track on the big day.
Yes. And with Phil, you can tell he knows that. And so he's trying to recreate a smaller version of that with a corgi race or a grandparent race or whatever, just to get that kind of excitement. And I think there's something to it. And so no, kudos. I thought that was a really cool interview. And I thought of Grant about halfway through because I know he came out of that area and he had thought about so much. He talks about the Longacres Mile, and he's right. It is the Derby of the Northwest, because even Grant in that interview a couple of years ago, oh yeah, I'd love to pick off on I'd love to get a Longacres Mile, blah, blah, blah. I'd love to do that. And it's fascinating to hear those different races from around the world. How loud did it get there?
Oh, it got very loud yesterday. And to the point you were making there, what they have one of these special event weekends every single weekend of the meet.
Right.
So they've got something going on every single weekend. There's a back
We have a
behind me
AAA
somewhere.
baseball team here in Louisville, Sean.
Yeah.
They haven't been over 525 years. They still pack the place because the promotions. Yeah, because Bluey's there and whatever else. I mean, this has been tried in other sports. It's nice to hear it from somewhere in horse racing as well.
Yeah, there's a sign back behind there that's got them all listed. But they're getting people out to the track. That's then translating to when, like he said, with these kids that see that, and they now have a like for horse racing because they know it's somewhere fun that they go to. Maybe that turns into them going to a different racetrack if they're around. Maybe that turns them into lifelong horse racing fans as we go forward. But it is a race out here. There's a wall inside the grandstand that says the Northwest's premier race. That's what the Longacres Mile is. We talked about Brian Malarkey, the celebrity chef on Arrow the Great, which we talked about Arrow the Great, and then he went and won the race. So we were right on that one, I guess, by talking about him. And so I talked to him after the race yesterday, and he said that same thing. He's been dreaming of winning the Longacres Mile his entire life. It was something his dad was an owner and a breeder. His dad said at one point when he was about 9 years old, like, I really want to win the Longacres Mile. And then Brian finally got it done for the family yesterday. And he wins the Longacres Mile. And he was very happy, very emotional after that. But it's such a big race day. Some of the changes that he mentioned that they made about putting the 6 stakes races on the card.
Right.
We were talking about that. We were joking about whether or not we were going to have all 1 to 9 favorites, or if we were going to get some long shots. 11 races yesterday, and the winner of the Longacres Mile was the only favorite to win the entire day. We had a lot of nice long shots, so it was a great opportunity for the gamblers. The track broke their single day record of handle, $3,305,806 wagered on the card. They were just short of the state record for handle, which was set on the final day of Longacres Mile, the day that it closed permanently. So a pretty historic day there. But then on top of that he mentioned the multi-race wagers. They broke their record for their largest pick 5 carryover because of how many prices came in. They have a $78,841.35 carryover going into the Friday card. So it was a great opportunity for bettors, a great opportunity for people to make some money here. And I know that appeals to you a lot.
It does. But the other part is underrated. State of Washington went to penny breakage. So on a day like that, I know people kind of scoff, but I would bet a day like Longacres Mile, that's worth in the range of $5,000 to $6,000 just back to bettors. It's a huge amount of money. I think people have no idea, but yeah, no, it was a fun day. I just kind of threw it on. I had it on, on screen all day, just one of those things, but it was just, I thought of Grant a lot, which is funny to say, but yeah, just biggest day of the year at a track, and the fact that he's got the Longacres on his list there for sure. An important day at a place called Saratoga this weekend as the Travers will be run on Saturday. Lighter field. I'm getting a little tired of the Twitter conversations about lighter fields and horse racing, but I just have started to ignore them. Sovereignty's in here. The Pennsylvania Derby's in a couple weeks. The Pacific Classic's in a couple weeks. I don't know what people want, essentially, is what I would say to that. You got Sovereignty, or we got an American Pharoah situation?
No, I think as long as Sovereignty shows up, I mean, I can't see a way. Now, I'm probably going to doom him right here. I can't really see a way where he loses this. It's at his preferred distance, that 1.25 miles. We know he likes the racetrack. I mean, he's just, in general, a monster. Maybe something weird happens where Magnitude can sneak away on the lead, but now with Bracket Buster in the race, I don't really know that's what can happen. Even if Sovereignty loses this race, like say Magnitude ends up jumping up and beating him here because he gets a loose lead, I still think that it's probably more of Sovereignty lost than somebody beat him. We'll see if that's correct when we get to Saturday, but that's how I feel going into this. That it would just be a case of Sovereignty not running his race.
Yeah, I think Magnitude is the obvious, threat here, and so I wouldn't be surprised to see him run a good race. But I'm with you, buddy. It's rare that we get a 3-year-old of this quality, but this is exactly what we talked about. Farrell. Now, the difference is the Keen Ice of this year ain't in this field. That to me is big, that's the big difference here is no offense to magnitude. He might be Keen Ice, maybe, but he ain't yet. And not from what I've seen, at least. The Iowa Derby ain't Keen Ice territory. That's okay.
Yeah.
But we'll see where he ends up that way. Great field in the Jerkins as well. This 3-year-old crop, Sean, not just going the 2 turns on the Philly side, in the Alabama, then on the Travers side here. We're getting great sprinters out of this, some turf horses. I mean, this 3-year-old crop, man. This has been a good one.
I know this has been a really good group of 3-year-olds this year. I'm excited to see Patch Adams coming back in this spot. Excited to see Verifier kind of taking this step forward. Both of those 2 horses coming out of the Brad Cox barn. I think I mentioned Verifier last week when we were talking about the 3-year-olds to watch. And we also have a couple of these Bob Baffert horses coming in for the weekend. And so we'll see what Barnes has. Remember all the hype we had on him at the start of the year when we first started doing this podcast?
Man. I would love it if he ran huge, because if we could just insert one more horse into this category, my God.
Yeah,
I would love it. And frankly, if he's ever good at Del Mar, he could be the Breeders' Cup. Give me a new shooter in both of these races, as far as I'm concerned. Give me a Magnitude, give me a Barnes, just give me these horses, step up, be part of that conversation. I would love it. So hopefully we get something like that. We'll be back next week. We will recap those races, and of course, start looking forward to, man, we're rolling along. Of course, I'll be out at Kentucky Downs this week, but then I'll be there a couple more times moving
I'll
forward.
meet you there soon.
I was going to say, I'm sure Sean will be there as well. Our guy, Sean. On the screen right now, the QR code for the magazine, of course, at bloodhorse.com. Check out the magazine tab at the top of the homepage. Frank mentioned it. The digital has gotten a major upgrade, but if you want to have that copy sent to your house, we don't blame you. It's beautiful. Got those great photos. Makes anyone's coffee table look great as well. Well, Sean, safe travels back to Saratoga, my friend. Safe flight to New York. How long's that flight? 4 hours?
I guess it's probably about maybe 4.5, 5 hours where I'm going into Baltimore, and then I got to fly from Baltimore up to Albany. So
that's a Southwest special right there, folks. All right. Well, he's Sean Collins. We'll be back next week on a BloodHorse Monday. Thanks so much for starting your horse racing week with us. The BloodHorse is dedicated to the improvement of thoroughbred breeding and racing for over 100 years. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and save BloodHorse Monday on all your platforms. For the latest news, analysis, and insights, visit us at bloodhorse.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.